Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installment of a different series every show. It is Tuesday, February 17th. The creator of Dairy Girls, which I never saw, Lisa McGee, is at it again with a new show, How to Get to Heaven from Belfast. This is about three friends who investigate the mysterious death of a former schoolmate, which immediately made me hopeful that this was going to be like a spiritual successor to Search Party, which was about some friends who get overly entangled into the mystery of their former friend's disappearance.
Yeah, and that also I know is on Netflix. It used to be on HBO Max.
So they're both on Netflix right now.
Yes.
Well, I would recommend them both to start out with. If you're looking for an absurdist, surrealist comedy that mixes genres and gives no apologies for it, because this is a hat trick production, which also likes to mix genres. They also produce Whose Line.
They produced the Dairy Girls as well.
They produced Dairy Girls. They produced Episodes, which is a meta critique with Matt LeBlanc. Worst Week, which was that British sitcom from many years ago, and then Flack. So yeah, they do all types of comedy, and so Lisa McGee. Had you ever seen Dairy Girls?
No, I hadn't, but I know that was a global phenomenon. It ran for like 3 seasons, I think.
Right. She feels like the type of creator who knows what she wants to do. She gets it greenlit, and then she writes most, if not all, the episodes.
Wow, you actually got it kind of right on the head, because when she was producing the final season, or when she was working on the final season, she decided that she was going to write the pilot for this.
It makes sense because the Dairy Girls whole show was about teens played by actresses in their 20s. This is 20 years future wise. It's a little bit of an older group. They're 38. And so they're nervously getting, they don't want to age, but at the same time, you can tell all those jokes are coming from that.
Her main reason was that she needed to write something that wasn't Dairy Girls, that the characters of Dairy Girls were not talking to her inside her head. So she decided that she would write the first episode. And I think by the time that the series Dairy Girls was done, she had written 3 episodes, and then the writer's room, which she really enjoyed. I think it was the first time, or one of the first times she had it. She worked with
she was
them.
mixing with other people.
Yes.
Yeah. So The Wake, I think she is credited as writing completely herself.
Yeah.
However,
she wrote the first 3 episodes and the last 2.
Yes, 40 some minutes long, and the intro is more or less like Search Party, and more like Pretty Little Liars or Yellowjackets or Bad Sisters.
Bad Sisters completely, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like Pretty Little Liars, where they introduce you to a mystery. You see a flashback where there's these girls who have started a fire, and one of them is now the one who's going to end up dead in this series. So they're obviously going to be looking to figure out what happened to her.
We were
and
liars.
Also, yeah, We Were Liars too. There's just it's something about 2005. If you look at the Burbs, they also had this mystery going back about the missing Allison in that show. But in Pretty Little Liars, it was also Allison.
I remember in 2000, I connected it to a 2004 film, Without a Paddle, which revolves around 3 people uniting as
also with
childhood
Matthew
friends.
Lillard from our most recent show.
And Tony Starr, he plays the friend that dies. And I know that they all got together, and I think we're celebrating him. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can pull from.
Yeah. My point, I guess, is that the intro is disappointing to me, because I'm a little scared that it was going to drift into, just the regular, we have a secret, we don't want to tell anybody, and they're just going to play by those tropes.
Yeah.
Then we're introduced to our 3 main leads. There's Dara. She's got this nervous energy. She's unhinged.
She reminded me so much of Kristen Wiig in her intro, because she was able to talk so fast.
She's
get
got
those
a
lines
caffeinated
out.
ADHD type personality. She likes to wear a beanie. And I think she's the most remorseful of the 3 that her friend is dead. The other 2 seem more concerned with either themselves or about covering up whatever happened.
Robin seems insane.
Robin is a control freak. She is a mom of 3, and she's very vain, because she's constantly talking about getting a spa treatment or her makeup done before heading out to see her friend's wake.
She had that whole dream sequence where she's banging her head against the steering wheel, and it's showing her kids that she has blood across her face.
I think plenty of moms can probably connect with her when the kids are just yelling in the back seat. Sherza, I think, though, is the most Lisa McGee character, because she is a scriptwriter, just like Lisa McGee, and she's writing for this stupid cop procedural where she's having to deal with actors who are coming out and with their own statements like, we no longer want to work on a murder show, or we want to work on a murder show, but we no longer want it to be about murder.
And they think it's groundbreaking to do that.
Yes.
It always draws me back to Aaron Sorkin when he talks about how he loves actors, but he hates when they chime in with any type of story ideas.
Whenever I hear that, though, I side on the on the actor's side for that. Like Christopher Nolan calls most of the actors he works with geniuses and says like they wouldn't be in their positions unless they have like really important critiques that they want to make to scripts and stuff. So it's like, yeah, you have the give and take. And Aaron Sorkin has certainly like burned a few bridges that way. Anyway, so Lisa McGee, she's getting married soon. She's probably the most successful of the three of them, but all three are high strung and frazzled individuals, 38 years old, and they received this email from Gay Harriton. And who's Gay Harriton? We're not supposed to know. She is the sister-in-law of Greta O'Neill, and Greta O'Neill is the fourth friend who they haven't spoken to in 20 years. And unfortunately, Gay is inviting them to Greta's wake because
Saoirse is the first one to figure out about it, though, right? Like we are the first to
no,
see her
the
reaction.
exact opposite. So Dara finds out first. She's at that cafe talking about how like everything in her life because she's taking care of her mom and stuff. Then it goes to Robin, who is in the car with her kids. She finds out, and then Robin tries to connect with Scherza. Scherza is in that meeting with her client or with the actor, and then once she gets out of there, that's when she finds out that her friend is dead. They go on a road trip comedy together. Scherza has to fly in from Belfast, and they all kind of make the same joke when they see each other. We're dying now.
Yeah.
Like,
And it takes about 12 minutes before they all end up actually being together. I thought that it was smart for us to see their singular lives before we were able to see them kind of all culminate.
absolutely, because then you saw where they were in their lives, and it was like, yeah, nobody is suffering, no one's on the streets or anything, but at the same time, yeah, and they do still get together because Dara and Robin are supposed to be her bridesmaids when when Scherza does get married. However, none of them have talked to Greta for 20 years, so they really just don't know what to expect. But there's a secret, and they just kind of want to keep that quiet because they keep on repeating the line something like separate, but together or something like that.
Yeah, and also they keep showing the tattoos that
Right,
like
they
all
all
of them
got
seem to
tattoos
have.
when they were like 16 to 18 years old. And so the road trip comedy quickly gets derailed, though, when Dara puts petrol into the gas tank instead of diesel. Now, in the
Yeah.
States, we just call it gas. We just call it gas or diesel, right? But
Right.
there they say petrol, which is always fun. And then this mechanic guy shows up.
Liam.
Similar to Good Doctor. No, what's the name of the show that we did earlier this year that got remade?
Oh, Bad Medicine?
Bad
Or-
Medicine, yes. But what was the original called?
Doc Martin.
Doc Martin. And in that first episode, he also has car trouble. I think he drives off the road.
They did the same exact joke here that they did in 8th grade, where like you hear this giant pop song in the background while Liam pops out, but then like the second you see him, it just cuts, it
Right.
stops.
It's pretty obvious that Scherza, despite about to getting married, and we do see her talk to her husband or her engaged fiance a little bit later, she has a thing for Liam. They start flirting. He's younger than her.
He's
however,
26, I think. is
However,
what it
he's
says.
just very cool as a cucumber dude, and so she's a little smitten by him. He takes them to the hotel in Knockdara, which is in Donegal, Ireland. However, it's like a very creepy atmosphere, and it's not a real town. And I think part of the reason she made it not a real town was so she could make it as ridiculous and characterized as she does.
I agree with you.
So then that's where the horror movie sort of begins, right? They start to change tropes on us, and Greta's Facebook is suspiciously taken down. There's this creepy ambience. You get the hotel manager who is a strange dude in his own right, wearing that bow tie.
The
that lights
light up
up.
bow tie has to be one of my favorite parts of the episode.
They learn that Greta died falling down a flight of stairs while sleepwalking.
Mhm.
Now that's a very strange way to die, and they point that out. They go to dinner. They reminisce about the good old days until Scherza sort of reveals that the reason they're really there is not to just celebrate their friend's life, but instead to make sure that Greta did not divulge to anyone what they did.
Right. And this all just felt like it was mixing a ton of things that were horror comedy. Shining Veil, Big Little Lies. I had dashes of Atlanta in there because it gets very surreal at different parts of the episode.
To me, it's just mostly Yellowjackets and Pretty Little Liars, where half the timeline is presented in the future, where you have these people being like, we cannot not tell them about the fire we started in the past, you
Mhm.
know, because someone was in that fire. And so the mechanic Liam shows up again while Scherzer is going out for a smoke, and now he's a cop. So he
He
has
has
two
2
jobs.
jobs.
He's a side mechanic, and his real job is to be the cop, and he's actually working for Greta's husband. So he has a connection there as well. He flirts. They have this connection again. He gives her the bill. She goes back inside, and the three girls go wild. You know, they say, "We're not going to get drunk," and then they get blasted.
I don't
And
know why. It reminded me so much of Resident Alien because they start,
yes,
like, dancing and then they start seeing, like, visions of their high school self.
well,
Is that what
it
it
went
was?
from cringy real quick because you got these three people who are trying to dance with a bunch of teens,
Mhm.
and then suddenly, like, it flips as the music flips, and they turn it into a clubbing sequence with ghosts of their prior selves because that night, the teens were going to a '90s night.
Right.
And they were, even though they grew up a little bit past the '90s, again, 2005, it was close enough in their time where they were connecting with the types of clothes that those kids were wearing, just as like their versions were going to '70s nights. So then you saw those girls pop in there too, and they were doing the same dancing
They were
at the
kinda
same time.
translucent, though.
I thought it was really cool choreography, and I thought it took a scene that at first you are cringing at to like a different level, and then you're like respecting the show,
Mhm.
and then it just cuts it straight from there to their hangover the next day right outside of Greta's family house, their estate. And so they're really hungover. Later on they question why they felt so good when they got up, and they realized that they were just so drunk when they got up. And-
When we got to that final 15 minutes
yeah.
in the house, that's when the show went from, "I'm not enjoying it," to "that much," to "I thought
For
hilarious."
you, that
Yeah.
I think I started realizing how ingenious the show was a little bit earlier than that. But yeah, when they went into the house and it went full horror on you, you had the creepy dudes, and this is what I wanted the Burbs to be
Uh-huh.
honest with you, because they had that creepy monster house. And when you go inside there, just play it for all the laughs you possibly can.
The Owen guy got me laughing hard. He's the guy from Fool Me One.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Mrs. Stark was there as Mrs. Heaney. And they have the actual coffin of the dead bride in the house. And Greta, so they go and visit Greta, and the daughter then reveals that because I guess the family is not exactly like happy that they're there.
Right.
She
No,
seems
the
put upon that they're there. They seem put upon that these three have shown up. And so when they divulged that Aunt Gay told them that Greta had passed on, they seem a little like still confused,
they all also seem brainwashed, like, they're just, like,
like
all
part of a cult.
yeah, they're standing in, like, just a particular order, and they're all just, like, talking one at a time. They're, like, staring at
I
them.
thought the way that Greta's mom, Mrs. Heaney, was speaking to them just kind of gave permission to say that this is the way they've always been.
Right.
Owen could be a controlling husband because we saw a Facebook image where he was holding Greta by the neck and it looked a little controlling, you know. But I don't think that this family is supposed to be. They're kind of like Wedding Crashers, like that kid in Wedding Crashers,
Oh, you mean
the one, the
yeah.
painter
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
if all of them were part of that crew.
I didn't even make that. Yeah, yeah, that's
But,
true.
so yeah, they see the body, or Scherzer sees the body because she opens the lid to the coffin. She sees that the tattoo's not there. She realizes it's not Greta. Then at the same time, the daughter is revealing that Aunt Gay doesn't exist. That there is no sister-in-law, and all three of them freak out. They get spooked and they run out of the property, despite Owen and the brother trying to
Yeah,
stop
being
them.
like, "It's okay." You know what my favorite part of the whole entire episode
Was
was,
it the
though?
jump scare where Owen just suddenly appears in front
Where
of the
he
car?
turns into a video game character because he's on the porch, and then there's a second where they all look away, and they look back, and Owen is yeah, he's right in front of the car.
Yeah,
I
there's
couldn't
there's
stop
several
laughing.
jump scares, but that one was the funniest because at the same time they're arguing about how they lied about not liking lemon something pie or
Yeah.
lemon something cake, right? And then they get into a car accident, like they completely flip the
Well,
vehicle.
Owen is chasing after them,
Owen is
that's the
chasing
reason.
them, and then he gets out of the car, he walks over, and that's when Scherzer wakes up again. Everybody's flipped. I'm sure that for the next 7 episodes, like, they're not gonna have died in this first episode or anything, but Greta is also alive. We see her on some island somewhere running around in a forest, and that's just the ending reveal.
I was annoyed with the reveal. It reminded me a little bit of Florida Man, where it was like you were supposed to think that
True.
character and that died, and then it ended up being alive. But I remember I gave Vanished props, which was a show that I don't think I gave a passing grade to, but I was glad they didn't go back to the person to show that they were alive. And this is just another one of the shows that did that.
I do only have a few cons, and that is one of them. It says just showing Greta alive at the end on an island is probably the least compelling thing about the whole mystery.
Man.
Also, I feel like any of those, those super insane geolocator people who are able to see a picture of like a leaf and tell you exactly where they are.
Right.
Whenever they watch shows like this, they must be so annoyed because they must know exactly where that person is as soon as they show it. And they're just like, what's the problem?
Well, talking about Belfast, can you say a couple things that are places, shows or movies that take place in Belfast? Because I have a list here.
I mean, there was the ones that were up for Oscars pretty recently. The guy from The Penguin was in one, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's Kneecap, which is a Belfast.
Well, that's based off the band.
Then there's Belfast, the Kenneth Branagh movie, which was up for Oscars. There was 71, the Jack O'Connell film. And then,
so what am I thinking of? The Colin Farrell one. Was that like a different Irish movie?
are you talking like In Brudges, the
Oh,
2006 film or something?
Yeah, maybe.
That was way back. And then, but for TV shows, I had The Fall, the Gillian Anderson and Jamie Dornan
One
show.
of them, I think Dara was actually in The Fall. I think she was one of the characters in that.
I didn't even know that. Yeah, I know that with Robin, she was from Being Human, and I was wondering if you recognized her.
No. Okay, so another con of mine here is that the cast besides Scherza is a little bit old for 38.
Yes.
Like, they do, especially Robin looks like she's in her mid-40s.
You're not the only one who was like, these people are playing way younger than they
However, I still enjoyed that. She was probably, despite being the most annoying character and too old for the role, she had the funniest lines. Like her thing about as soon as she heard Nelly's Hot in Here being like, that's Greta's song. I just laughed at that. And then she accuses her 1-year-old of gaslighting her at one point.
Yeah.
And then the guy in the hat. Did you catch that? So the first time that they go into the haunted house, the place where Greta's being, they show all the pictures on the wall, which is that creepy thing you were talking about, where they're all on the line, they all look like they're in a court.
They have their hands on their shoulders.
On the second round, going down those same pictures, suddenly now there's a guy who's tipping his cap on the right side of every single picture. It's the weirdest thing to add.
I saw that you pointed that out upon the first time, and yeah, it's like they purposefully changed it just for that. That again is kind of what I was talking about with the surreal humor about it.
That's where the Burbs should have learned from their thing. Anyway, so and then also it starts off with Scherza's storyline. I think that she's probably had that happen to her, where she's been in the meeting for some sort of written thing, and they're like, "Why don't you change this?" And it's like, because it's this.
It's like Eric Kripke with Supernatural.
We've seen a lot of Hollywood critiquing Hollywood
studio,
but it's nice to see just like a teeny little nod to it, because it's like that's all you need in order to laugh. It's distinctly Irish, which I think is a big deal for her, because Derry and now Belfast, it's filmed there, you can tell. And then the petrol versus the accents, the fact that they make a big deal about Liam finding or not insulting, but like having that interchange with Scherza.
Right, he says like it's an
no one
accent.
Listening to them speak can realize the difference between their accents unless you're from that area. So I do like that she's putting in jokes specifically for her crowd, even though she knows it's dispersed to everyone.
Because I believe that Derry Girl, and I might be wrong about this, but at least for its early seasons, I think that it was very local. Like that's who they chose to be on the show, just like the cast and crew.
And
so
I don't know if that also mixed genres, but like when this went full horror on us, the lighting, the sounds, the creepy locations, the psycho shower for all three of them, the mysterious tattoo, the evil backflashes, the jump scares where she literally saw her friend as a kid twice or thrice in this whole thing. But
it's like a Bloody Mary type of thing where she wipes away the stuff from the mirror.
The phone call that Robin receives, and then there's like no one on the other end. I thought those were all really well done.
I thought that the intro, I know you kind of talked about, but like it was a cross between, I felt, Jessica Jones and After Party season 2. I'm talking about the actual intro where they show the names and everything.
Right. It felt like a paper intro. Like I don't know how they do those, but yeah. Then also, I think my favorite scene was the one that we talked about with the dancing ghosts. Like it started off as I was just like, let's get through this. And then by the end, I was just like, oh, it's cool. Like, first of all, the actual characters that they assigned for each one of them. In Yellowjackets, I always had a problem with a couple that like didn't match how they looked. But for some reason with this crew, I was like, yeah, no, I believe it. Like, just from the dancing, that's what they were missing. There was dancing in Yellowjackets, but they needed to have them both dancing at the same time behind themselves so that I could have, like, really understood who was who. I sound like an idiot.
So what would you give the show out of 10?
Well, I'm not done with my
Oh.
pros. I think the biggest pro is that sometimes when you watch a show that's so clever and that actually has inspiration going for it, you realize why they only have 8 episodes, because
Yeah.
it would be exhausting to write more of them. And it also reminds you about how much lame content you're getting now, also packaged in like 8 episodes that you're giving a pass to when you shouldn't,
So
you
you
know?
think that this show is almost it's so good that it's reminding you how bad other TV
I
is?
was so happy when I got to take back the Pyro, Pretty Little Liars comparison and then go back to my original Search Party thing and be like, yes, this actually does work sort of as a spiritual successor to that show. And I'm all for it. I give this pilot an 8 out of 10, almost an 8.5 out of 10. I was going back between the two. I will be watching the rest of the show, and I'm very curious, not only for the mystery, but just for the comedy's sake.
I will give it a 7 out of 10. Like I said, the first 30 minutes, I thought that there were some clever parts here and there. Liam was probably my favorite character. I thought the last 15 minutes absolutely made up for any type of boringness, though. The show has gotten good reviews. The Guardian gave the series 4 out of 5 and put in their title, "If you see nothing else this year, watch this." The Times also gave it 4 out of 5. Hollywood Reporter called it wildly funny and said that it has a resolved ending, even though Lisa McGee has talked about a season 2. She said that she left the door open for it.
Fantastic. That's a smart way of going about it.
And it has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's gotten, good reviews.
If you think about all this stuff that people are afraid of with AI slop and ChatGPT writing TV shows, one of the easiest ways to tell if something is like not giving it its all is if you can predict it. Because what is ChatGPT inherently trying to do? It's
Predict
trying to
the next
give you.
word, right?
Yes, that was the original take, but it's thinking about what you want to see. And so it's going to give you the most basic sludge of like, this is the next thing that goes in order of events. What it doesn't want to do is surprise, because it's afraid that surprising is going to be not what you want to see, right?
Right.
But that's what the need of comedy and what people are really entertained by is expecting one thing and then getting something that works but is entirely different. And that can only happen is if you're putting your mind into these characters and creating jokes that maybe you've seen in one way or another before, but done in a creative way at the time. The arguments that these 3 people were having felt way more authentic than any of the discussions or arguments that you saw in the Burbs, where you were introduced to all the neighbors. Like, as good as Mark Proch is at being weird, like the actual dynamic between the characters didn't feel real. While this one felt like, they could be really like snarky friends to one another. All right. Well, that's it for me. Thanks for listening. How about you?
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.